I'm Ashton Addison from the Crypto Coin Show, and today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Rob Wolf, aka Digital Asset News, CMO of Vellos Finance. Rob, welcome to the show, and thank you for taking the time.
Ashton, good to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Excited to dive into crypto markets today, a little bit about Vellos, more on the token side, getting tokens out of the market, lockups, and potentially getting discounts on tokens, which is always nice, which usually come with some little stipulations, but may be worth the while. Excited to dive into what you and the team at Vellos Finance have been working on. I'd love to start off our conversation with sort of a high level of Vellos Finance, what you and the team have built, and then we can dive into all the details.
Sure. So let's take a look at a high level. So Ashton, you're in the KOL, YouTube, Xverse type of industry. And you know that these different crypto projects come to you and they say, hey, what we want to do is we want to give you some kind of discounted token, right? And you can talk about it and do whatever else, but it'd be like 30, 40% off of what the token's actually going for. And you can talk about this, but there's going to be some lockup periods for it, obviously, right? Mm-hmm. So this may or may not happen to you. This happens to me all the time. And I get these different types of offers. And I would sit there and I would think to myself, it's nice that I can do these things if I so choose to, but what about the people that are out there, just the retail audience, who are like, I'd like some discounts. I think that'd be pretty cool, especially for some really good products that are out there. And that's what Vellos is all about. So we are here to bring in these different projects, these different ecosystems in crypto and digital assets and say, hey, if you're having an issue right now with liquidity, maybe you are a good project, maybe you have a very robust type of community, but maybe you need some kind of liquidity to kind of bring things forward. Because let's be honest, we've been going through a bear market for quite some time. We've been chopping sideways. So at some point, people are like, yeah, I'd like to bring in more community members. I'd like to have a little more liquidity because we need to advance and build out our ecosystem and our project. That's where Vellos comes in. Mm-hmm. So we say, let's take those tokens. What kind of terms do you want to do? And we can offer them to our community members at a discounted price. But to do that, you have to essentially lock it up for a little bit of time. And that depends on that ecosystem, that project. So if Tomato Coin tomorrow comes to us and says, hey, we'd like to offer 100,000 of these tokens, and we want to give those to or offer them to your community, and we're going to have a 2-month lockup with a 4-month vesting period, right? But we're going to give them to you at 40% off for all your community members. Great. They can do that. They can buy those things, and they can wait. And then, of course, as that comes in, if Tomato Coin gets more community members, mm-hmm. They get more liquidity and they can branch out and do the things that they need to do for their ecosystem to grow it. And then, of course, the people that are buying into that project now become the evangelicals, because we all know, I hate to say this, but it's true. But as we buy and our bags start to grow, we start to believe that project that we're into is going to do quite well. And what do? Well, we take to X and we take to Discord and we take to Telegram. We talk all about it. So if you have more people in, the community thrives, it grows, and it's a win-win for everybody. So that's at a very high level, that's essentially Vellos.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting concept, Rob, because, as content creators, we do see these deals often, whether we're always hunting for a better deal. And often there's a group that's offering a discount or some kind of lockup. But I think the everyday people that are normally just trading on exchange or just scrolling X, but they're not really deep in the industry yet, they haven't got insider connections, they never see access to a locked up token or discounted token. But also sometimes those tokens are already listed on Binance or KuCoin. Is it as simple as for a retail investor, they see, hey, I could just go to the exchange and buy this token, or now I have this offering that I wasn't going to sell the token for 2 months, for example, anyway, it's locked up, I'm getting a little bit of a discount. Is it as simple as making that trade-off, or why couldn't they just, if they don't want to take extra risks, they just buy it now?
So that's just it. It comes down to risk. So like what we do at Vellos is we work with all these different ecosystems. We bring people in, the projects, and say, okay, tell us what's going on with this project. And we take a look at really the community, the utility, the team, the tokenomics. And we also take a look at the inflation and their partners. And we kind of take a look as a base level and say, how is this project going to move forward? Because if we take a look at all those things, we can kind of differentiate between some of the projects that aren't going to make it, some of the projects that will make it. So we bring those projects to our communities that they might not otherwise know what's going on with these projects, because let's be honest, we got like thousands of different projects out there. And there's some really good projects, and people who are watching this show right now will probably say, you know what, I'm going to do a really good project and people don't really know about it right now, but I invested into it and I believe in it. What if you could do that same thing with the project that you believe in, and Vellos actually talks to those people and go, hey, we're going to give you 40% off. If you believe in it, you can actually get it. You can purchase it and have like a cliff and a lockup and a vesting period. So the other people will say, well, I don't want to do that. I just want to go to the exchanges and just buy my project at a certain specific point, and I want to be able to sell it at any point in time. That's fine. You can do that, because it's all about the individual investors and what they actually feel is their risk level. However, I will say this, with Vellos, to come in there and do that, when you get these tokens, it becomes like, it becomes an NFT. And you have, kind of think of like the NFT is like the Willy Wonka golden ticket, right? You have this ticket for this ecosystem and you can purchase this at 40% off. Okay, here's your 40% off. Now you have this lockup period. If at some point you're like, you know what, I just need a new kidney, or I just need to pay my mortgage, or I got to do something, then you can sell that on our secondary market and say, you know what, something came up, it's not working out for me. And you can sell that at a price that is established by the secondary market within Vellos. So you're never really locked up, but it gives you a lot more options as an investor. And of course, you can also take a look at these different projects that come out and say, yeah, I could take a look at that and go in that route.
No, that's really cool, because so you're getting a locked up token, but also you're not actually locked up if you want to sell it. For example, if you, I think, are getting access to, normally there's projects when they're launching or when they've just launched, they're also trying to do discount deals. But is there also coins that have been around for years, or like billion-dollar companies that are selling the tokens? You know, what's the sort of range of what kind of tokens you think would be available on the platform?
So right now, everybody has to know this is a very early project, and we're kind of getting the information out right now. And as a matter of fact, there will be a link I'll give to Ashton and all your subscribers. They can take a look at it. It's our Telegram app. And what it's going to allow them to do is to figure out and find out what Vellos is and the direction that we're going. They can do some things for as far as quests and do some kind of point mining for an eventual airdrop like people love to do. But also within that Telegram app, they're going to go through different education platforms and education quizzes, so they can find out about, like, when Vellos talks about community utility team tokenomics, inflation, and all the things that he was talking about, and partners, what does that mean as far as like the different cryptos that I could potentially get in? So we'll kind of educate you on that point. But as far as like the projects that are coming in, right now we're going through that whole vetting process. So again, for this right here, it's very early stage. I think we're going to, the people that we know in the ecosystem, because it's not just me, it's a lot of people that have been around for a little bit of time and have kind of understood like what is good, what maybe may not be so great, meme coins, and then kind of go from there and try to figure out and get the best types of projects that could use that liquidity, can use that boost of community. So again, right now, ecosystem just kind of taking off as far as with Vellos.
Yeah, no, that's great information. And I can definitely leave a link to the Telegram app. I want to check it out myself, actually. Yeah. And now with this platform being able to open up to more retail investors, they might also have less capital to play with than VCs had that were actually able to get into the private deals. Is there minimum requirements? You know, can you buy a few dollars, or do you have to buy a block of the locked tokens to make it worth it for the company or the investor that's selling it?
Yeah, so that's what we all talked about in the group, in the Vellos organization. We said, you know, if you're a VC, $100,000 is a drop in the bucket for you. A couple $1 million might be a drop in the bucket for you, but for somebody else, that's life-changing funds. So when we are talking to those ecosystems, we're like, look, you have to understand that people aren't going to be buying $100,000 a pop. This is because we don't want to get just 10 groups of large whales. We want to get thousands of individuals to get into this, so you can have that community and that ecosystem to kind of thrive. So for us, we're looking at, for entry points, very low. And it's all up to the project leaders and the ecosystems, but 500, 1,000, 2,000, which I got to tell you, going up that level can seem a little bit too high. You're like, wow, $2,000 is a lot. So we want to keep it as low as we possibly can. Not every project will be like, yeah, sure. But the ones I think that will do good on our platform, and this is why we're going to probably reject a lot, are the ones that are going to go a little bit lower on that attribution level, because we don't want to leave people out. We want to bring everybody underneath the same umbrella.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, because I feel like on one hand, from the company or the seller perspective, their mindset is, we're giving a discount here, we should be getting more money for it. But at the same time, that eliminates a wide mass of the population, and now you're just left with VCs. The less amount of people holding it, less decentralized it is, the less community members you have. So honestly, you should probably be lowering that so that more people can get involved. And often people that don't have a lot of capital, but they might have good human capital, a good network,
Right.
An army of people that are holding a few $100s might actually be a much better community than 5 people that are too busy, that have a lot of money, they throw it there and they just forget about it.
Yeah, and you know what? It's one of those things where, like, let's be honest, we all hold some kind of VC coin, whatever you want to call that, actually, but we don't want to keep going in that direction. At some point, you want to decentralize. That's the whole ethos of decentralization, right? If we have just a large hub of whales, they can do whatever they want, especially when we get into like this bull market, as it starts to ring true. They can dump like crazy, but the more people that you actually have and more you kind of put that in the retail, it equalizes everything. And if we don't do that, then we're just going to keep getting dumped on by as retail investors. And that's not good. That's not good, because as soon as people get dumped on, what do? Crypto's a scam. I'm out of here. I'm never going to go. I'm never going to come back. And also, I'm going to tell every single person I know how bad it actually is. If we can get people in here and say, hey, there's a better way to do things at a discount, you don't have to take so much risk. And if something comes up, you can sell it. It's one of those things where you can say, this, I think, could be a better way to do things. But again, everything has risk. But I just don't like the whole prospect of VCs and shoving everything down.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I'm also curious on the amount of projects. I've seen projects, yeah, the token is launched and you're getting a discount for holding it, but also there's so many projects that are just launching. And often when you're buying early on, it's standard for a lockup. Is there going to be projects that are just launching, or like launching through Vellos, or is this only going to be for something that's already on the exchange and you're just getting a better deal?
It's already on the exchange. It's already launched. There's enough companies, enough launch pads that want to do that. And we kind of feel like that is a more riskier play going that route. With this one, you already have some kind of establishment. You've already got some people actually building, and you kind of go from there. But again, a lot of these ecosystems and these crypto projects, I mean, they are utility. Some have utility, some don't have utility. That's what we're trying to parse out. But I always look at it like this. Sometimes it just comes down to, it's like that great restaurant down the street. You go to that restaurant, you're like, this is a great place. The food's fantastic, the food's cheap, and the service is excellent. And then you go back, 3 weeks later, nobody in there, just you and your wife looking around. That's weird. And then like 2 months later, it's closed down. What happened? A lot of things could have happened. And one of those things that could happen is maybe they didn't have enough. Maybe they didn't plan accordingly. Maybe they couldn't grow for whatever reason. I think that's one of those things with ecosystems and crypto. You have to do those things. And it's just like everything else.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And I feel like even great projects, when you're a startup and you're building the next Microsoft, everyone's fighting an uphill battle. It's not just easy because it's a 10-year overnight success, and in the end, everyone knew in hindsight that was an amazing company. But in the beginning, they were all rejected by investors and fighting to raise more capital to survive. And then when they made it, it all made sense. So I'm curious on what you think about the current market conditions. We mentioned at the beginning, we're in a bear market. I've often heard the saying that, heads down in the bear market, and some of the greatest companies so far in the past bear markets 4-8 years ago in crypto have become billion-dollar companies. But at the same time, the current market conditions are hard for these companies to raise capital, and also for people to want to take risks. They're taking less risks because everything's not going up. So they're like, protect their capital rather than take risks. What do you think about leading into Q4, the end of this year, in the overall Bitcoin and all of the cryptocurrencies? Do you think that what happens with that will shape the success of how many people are willing to buy discounted or locked up tokens?
Yeah, it's a great question. And really it comes down to the individual investor. and what their risk tolerance is. I lived in Las Vegas for 2 years, and I can tell you, people have a very high risk tolerance. They can do whatever they want to, right? And now I live in Puerto Rico and we vacation in Texas. And I can tell you, it's not that same way. There are people who are like more reserved and they're conservative in what they do and what they want to do. And as far as like investors. So I see it like this. There's going to be all different types of people on the spectrum. Are the prospects of dollar cost averaging and how that would look like in the bear market and the bull market. And we always take a look at the 4-year cycles, which some people believe, some people don't. But I always take a look at everything starts with the halving. We have a halving, all-time high, dip, and a reset. And it seems like the majority of individual investors, they seem to want to invest when everything's going like crazy parabolic high. But that's not where you make the real money. The real money, unfortunately, is made in the bear market when everybody points their fingers and laughs at you and calls you a moron because you're essentially throwing what they say, sand in the ocean. But I'm not, because as time goes on, you realize just how smart a move that actually was. So right here, just like we were talking about Ashton, I think there's going to be people who are risk averse, and that's fine. That's good for them, and everybody does different things. But there's going to be some people that are going to say, you know what, I like this project. I like where it's going, and I want to invest into it. And for those, we want to work with those people. But if they don't, then they can be risk averse, and I think for some people it works out pretty well.
Yeah, no, yep, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was going to say one last thing about crypto products, because you had a good point about how, beforehand, how things were, like these billion-dollar companies and nobody really wanted to pay attention to them. It's like with Amazon and Jeff Bezos. In the very early days, he would sit back and he took a look at his inventory and how he was growing, and he took a look at the stock price, and he had to put a letter out to all his investors. And he said, look, he goes, I don't know what's going on with the stock price, but I can tell you right now, we're opening up 30 or 40 different factories in the EU. We have the highest amount of revenue we've ever had. We have more employees. We have more things going on. We don't understand what it is, but just stick with us and we'll be okay. And from there on, then things just took off. But I will say the way that they were able to do it, and Facebook, now called Meta, was able to do it, is because they absorbed a lot of those other competitive industries that were around them. They didn't want to build everything out, but they wanted to absorb them. And I think the same thing's going to happen with crypto and digital assets. They're going to take a look and go, we're a layer one. Where should we absorb? Let's take this other layer one or layer two and kind of absorb them into the fold, take the developers, take the projects, take the communities, and then flourish like that. I think that's probably where we're going to go moving forward.
Yeah, that's a great story with Amazon, because I believe there's definitely a handful or a few handfuls of crypto projects that have such strong fundamentals, have a great founding team that has that similar vision. They understand the long-term game. They understand a product market fit and being able to survive, and not just running on marketing or hype. And the stock price or the crypto coin price is not reflective at all of the value of that company. In the bull market, it could even look overvalued because it goes up so quickly because of the small market cap size of Bitcoin and the entire cryptocurrency industry compared to the stock market. We're still at like 1% or something so small that there's sort of a gateway of understanding, of knowing how to get into Bitcoin and then trade for these other coins to get access to these kind of projects, that it's just not as easy as it is calling your stockbroker. So I feel like there's definitely some undervalued in the bear market right now. And I see what you're saying about this lockup, where although it's a bear market, it's up to every individual person that does the research. They see there's a great company. I have a feeling there's going to be some really, really good companies that are launching tokens on Vellos, and it just because that they're selling tokens doesn't mean that they're running out of money and they need capital. It's just another mechanism of driving liquidity and community members.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Ashton. How do you structure your portfolio? Like, are you more of like a very, a risk-centric type of individual, like risk-averse? How do you do it?
I would say there's definitely some try to, depending on, how much financial knowledge I was ingrained in my brain of traditional finance, which I did do a business degree, and what they show in, being fully diversified, or, having 14 specific assets and inside and outside of crypto. Inside, you depending on your age and all these other things, there's so many variables for every investor, but you want to take more risks because you see the potential of the industry of, hey, even if Bitcoin could equate to what gold is worth, although the value is affecting so many more other industries, maybe you want to be more risk on and go with more speculative assets like these locked up ones. I've definitely done locked up tokens in the past, and you also have to consider the power rule, or that 9 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 of your investments could and probably will fail, but that one could make up for all of them. So I personally really do like layer ones and blockchains operating systems, because that's, if you were to invest into in Web 2, Microsoft versus one application that's running on Microsoft's operating system. Well, Microsoft's still around. The application has probably been redone 100 times over as these iterations happen. So I really like the operating systems of blockchain myself.
Yeah, I think it's the safer play. And like for me, like, because I'm older, so I've got kids and grandkids. So with my portfolio, I stick mostly to the blue chips, and Bitcoin is heavily into my portfolio. But there is room for a little bit of more risky type assets, even though it's very small. So like for me, of course, I can't tell any of your audiences what to do. I'm not a financial advisor, and God knows I don't know where they're coming from. But for me personally, like a little bit of riskiness actually kind of balances things out. Now, not to do like I'm going to do a complete flip, like, okay, I have 80% Bitcoin, now I'm going to go 80% risk. But I think it leaves the door open for a balanced portfolio for a little bit, because who knows? Sometimes we've heard about this in crypto. There's always that massive big win. Unfortunately, you have to go through 10 to 100 different losses to get to that one. But that's where I'm always curious to see where people are. I think we're almost on the same level on that one.
Yeah, no, that's it's interesting. And with the platforms that are going to be listed on Vellos when it goes live, do you have any idea of the mixture of the types of projects, different categories, whether it is layer ones or whether it is, what you scoffed at earlier about meme coins or community platforms, how much utility or benefit are going to be in these projects that are listed?
Yeah, I'm not going to speak for the entire group, but I will say if we're going to do meme coins, I'm definitely going to veto that one. I'm sorry, I just can't get into it. But layer ones could be, it's on the table. We are talking with certain projects. Layer two is more specifically Web3 gaming, oracles, and then we have a DeFi project in there as well. So we're trying to find the whole gambit, but again, it's doing our due diligence to make sure that we bring some good projects to our community, and just to make sure that, hey, this is why we did this, and give them a straight answer, so they can do their own research and go, okay, I'll take a look at this one. Yeah.
And personally, I feel like there's a difference between what are the current narratives, and then those actual projects, are they actually changing the world, or are they sort of going along with the narrative to get more attention? And I feel like AI is one of those that's still been hot throughout most of 2024. Gaming, I think, as well, but I feel like people want it to be successful right away, and even to create a good game, it takes multiple years. 2 years heads down of 100 developers making a game. Never mind introducing blockchain and all this other stuff. And I'm sure there's a few other narratives. Is there anything that you're personally bullish on or interested in on that front?
I'm more bullish on, like you were talking about, layer one solutions, because it's very simple to think of it that way. Like, okay, let's take Avalanche. Avalanche is a great layer one. It's very fast. It has a great ecosystem. It has a great community. And there's a lot of different things being built on it, Web3, gaming being one of them. So if you take a look at all those different projects that are out there, just like you said, you can invest into those individual projects, which there is pretty good returns, but it's risky, right? But what if you just invested into Avalanche? What if you just invest? I know people will laugh at this one, but what if you just invested into Ethereum straight off? Because people will say, well, Ethereum's an old, slow technology, and it's not going to make it. I'm like, well, that's true. But I mean, the internet is also quite slow, TCP/IP and those types of protocols, but it's what's built on top of that layer. I think that's probably a reasonable response for like layer 2 solutions. Mm-hmm. So for me, I do like the whole DPIN narrative, decentralized physical infrastructure network. Is that going to play out? I'm not for sure. But I like what's being done over by Aether, which is an AI and DPIN play, and also World Mobile Token, and a couple other different ones, even like Helium, which is kind of like in there with World Mobile. Will that work out? I'm not for sure. I still like the king Bitcoin. I still like layer ones, Ethereum, Avalanche type of things. And at some point, we're going to need an oracle. We're going to need an oracle that brings in all that outside data. That could be Chainlink, that could be Pyth, that could be a whole host of different ones. So I see those as doing quite well.
Yeah, no, that's great insights, Rob. And it's funny that you say people would scoff about Ethereum. I think that it still has that network effect that the majority of development is going to be going on there, and that's what these layer 2s are. They wouldn't be here without Ethereum. Sure, you could say the problems of Ethereum arose to creating layer 2s, but really they're helping support the network. And we're so small, even the layer 1 founders say, hey, it's not this blockchain versus that blockchain. We're all still trying to spread the message of the benefits of blockchain, because there's still 98% of the world that isn't utilizing it. So I feel like there's a long way to go. And one last note about those other specific companies you mentioned. Aether, we actually did speak with them recently on the show. And I agree. I think DPIN, it has great fundamentals, and I'm excited to see physical devices integrated with blockchain. But to go back to that, it also does the DPIN network is actually fueling AI processing, because processing power is a lot of processing power is required for computing AI and LLMs, and that's what it seems like. It's not exactly tied to actually putting that processing power into blockchain, but I feel like these networks can help support the growth of AI, as it will require a lot of computing power and capital in the coming years.
Oh, I got it. How much do you use AI, Ashton? How much do you use it?
Personally, not being a programmer, just using it for business use cases, I would say I'm still using OpenAI every day.
Yeah, it's a funny thing, because like even, okay, here's an example, like Amazon. I know how easy it is to use, right? But I didn't really get into it until the pandemic. Whether you believe in that or not, I'm not here to just discuss these things. But like when I figure out like, oh, I can just have everything delivered. Oh, it's right there in front of me. Why am I not using this? And now, of course, like with ChatGPT and Grok over on X, like I use those things for a lot of things throughout my my daily life. So I can see where things are going. I can also see some really shiftiness as far as like with jobs, programmers being one of the big things. And then how it's just going to disrupt everything. But the problem is, and like Elon Musk talks about, and the founder of ChatGPT, is like there's a massive amount of need for compute. And if we don't get that, then we can't become leaders. And that, of course, is, I think, the next big gold rush for dominance powers in different countries. I know I'm getting off topic, but I think AI is the future. But am I going to say like this project's going to win, that project? I have no idea. There's so many different things out there.
Yeah, no, I love that we dive into all these topics. There's so much to talk about, which is why I feel like it's still great to be paying attention to, especially in the bear market, because that's when these great companies are continuing to build heads down, to be looking at projects that require liquidity, or maybe you're the one that actually helps the next Microsoft become successful, because you're getting some of the tokens, and it's one of the greatest returns ever in outside of Bitcoin. I would hope we can go for that. I would love to sort of dive into the future steps for this platform. And you mentioned it's early stage. Is there a roadmap on timelines on anything that will be built, or when people can start taking the next step to get involved?
The big thing was, well, that's why, like, I'll give you some screenshots of our Telegram group. You want to put those in there, but that Telegram app group is the first step. That's where we're at right now. So Telegram app is going to allow people to understand what Vellos is, what we're trying to do, trying to educate them as far as like the market and what we're looking at. And that, of course, we can do quests. So that's like stage one, very early type of stuff, right? To build that community. Then the next part kind of happens behind the scenes. And behind the scenes is essentially talking to different investors who would like to invest into Vellos itself, and then also to bring in those projects that need those community members, that need those, like that big push, that need that liquidity a little bit to get them to the next level. So we're talking with everybody right now. So as far as like a roadmap, I don't see, again, this is such early, I don't see much happening until around Q4 of 2024. And we'll update you when it happens. But right now, it's just getting people and building the community and just building it out. We've already got people we're talking to, but I can't say that. I can't mention them. I can't say their names because it has to go through legal.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm looking forward to follow up to this. We'll definitely love to have more conversations, and hopefully the state of crypto is booming post election and around there. We'll see what happens. And you mentioned there about people investing into Vellos directly. Is there any information around a Vellos token or the utility in the platform on what that would look like when it is launched?
So it would look like this. So if we're going to go and take a look at the Vellos token, let me, I think I can share my screen and pull this in real quick. So it's not just about going, okay, here's the offers. It has to be part of the community. So as far as like with tokens themselves, like for Vellos is going to give you different tiers. So tier 1, 5,000 tokens. This goes for reduced trading fees. Remember we were talking about as far as like to sell off your NFT in case you didn't want to do that, or to actually purchase the other tokens. This would be one of those things. The partner token airdrop. So everybody that we bring in, we're going to ask them a very specific question, which is, we can do these things, but how would you guys like to do just a secondary token airdrop? Because remember, they've already gone to the TGE. And then we have an analytics platform, and that'll be for a small fee. Tier 2, same thing as tier 1 essentially, but you get access to those deals. And then tier 3 is just access to everything, plus a little bit more private deals and or private rounds that are going through. So there's 3 different tiers to get you by using Vellos and getting you access to these different products that are coming in.
That's cool. And I have seen that before in some of the traditional groups. There's the minnows and the sharks. And, although we want to be fully decentralized, I feel like, hey, if you have more capital and more skin in the game, then once in a while you get an opportunity to better lockups or better projects. And I feel like that's only fair.
It's fair, but we want to make it really fair. And that's why we did the Telegram app, because when you're going through that and you're going through quests, maybe there's an airdrop for some of that. Maybe you get a founder NFT that gives you access to all 3 levels. This is the thing that we really, unfortunately, because of friend of the show, Gary Gensler, we can't really talk about those things too much, but I can just say there will be an airdrop for sure. Go to the Telegram group and figure out what Vellos is and kind of go and work your way through that.
Very cool. I'm going to take a look at that because you've piqued my interest. I'll leave a link in the show notes to the Telegram app and any of those other screenshots and docs that you have there. And I know this is early on, but I appreciate you coming on in this time of the market, giving your perspective into the entire market and, forward looking what it looks like for locked up and discounted tokens and investing in, hopefully, the next $1 billion companies, with the ones that make it through the power law. So thank you so much for your time, Rob, and all the best for you and your team on Vellos Finance.
All right. Thanks for having me, Ashton. Have a good day.